Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, dear worshipable devotees, thank you so much for taking out your time on this holiday weekend. I think there's Independence Day weekend here. What could be a better way to celebrate that than to declare our dependence on the real Supreme Personality of Godhead, right? That is Lord Hari, Lord Krishna. So the Jiva's independence is to declare one's dependence on God. One who thinks I'm independent is actually, without the shelter of the Supreme Lord, is actually dependent on I, me, and mine. But those who are dependent on Krishna, on the Supreme Merciful Lord, that is the real independence. So what could be better way than to read Bhagavad Gita together in the association of wonderful devotees like all of you? So we will read Bhagavad Gita as it is from the point where we stopped last time. Maline mochanam pumsam jalasnana dine dine sakrit Gitamrita snanam sansara malanashanam. We take bath every day with water to cleanse our body. But those who cleanse their consciousness, their internal body, with the holy Ganges water of Bhagavad Gita, coming from Krishna's lotus mouth, they are not entrapped by the effects of the worldly impurities. So this is the real way to purify ourselves internally and externally. So let's start with some prayers to Sri Guru and Gauranga. Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parichana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Girim Yatkripatamaham Vande Shri Guru Dinatarinam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram Guruve Gaurachandraya Radhikaya Tadalaye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tadbhaktaya Namo Namaha Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminite Namine Namaste Saraswate Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatadeshatarine Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Ram, Hare Hare. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhina, Sarve Santu Niramaya, Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschid Dukha Bhag Bhave. Sadhu Sang, Sarva Shastra Koe, Lava Matra Sadhu Sang, Sarva Siddhi Hoy. Hare Krishna, dear worshipable devotees, thank you so much for giving your precious sadhu sangha. The saintly association of all of you is very, very purifying for me. So I'm very, very grateful that you come every week and give your valuable association, which is the very much required in this day and age or to purify ourselves. So we are reading this here, Bhagavad Gita, chapter 4. Anyone remembers till what point we read? Any quick reflections or comments from last time, if you remember anything? Anyone remembers anything? What we read last time?
Hare Krishna.
Yes, please.
We did till 4.24. We
2.4,
ended with it.
2.5. I think we did 2.5. Okay. What did we talk about?
I remember the acronym, the 6 acronym which you used. That is about Arpanam, H for Hari, A for Arnu, D for Hitam, G for Gantavyam, S for Samadhina.
Thank you. Last time, due to some technical issues, I couldn't share my slides, but I have them for you today here. So this is text 24, very, very important here. I hope you all can see this, just in case. So spiritual oblations offered with spiritual instruments in the spiritual fire, Agni, by a spiritual person, Huta or priest, will lead to spiritual destination, that's Gantavya, because of absorption in spiritual activities, karma, absorption, samadhi. I couldn't share that last time. Of course, I spoke about it. We discussed that. That's text 24. So thank you. This is very important because the following verses are based on this theme. And then we will discuss that how different people offer different kinds of yajna. So we started with text 25, talking about the demigod worshippers and talking about the impersonalist worshippers. So a question may come up that why do people do different yajnas? Why do people, anyone like to try? Why different people do yajnas differently? Any thoughts, suggestions?
For
Yes.
satisfaction of Vishnu or Krishna.
Okay.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. I think it is for to purify our soul and to purify the surrounding.
That's true. That's true. That's the ultimate aim of yajna. Yes, Aradhana Mataji?
I think a lot of people do yagna to increase some kind of a boon or, if they want something extra, they feel that if they do these yagnas that it might come to them. Some people do it for the children's well-being, as they grow older, do you see what I'm trying to say?
Yes, absolutely. Because their desires are different, their positions are different. Like the sacrifice done by a grihastha is not same as sacrifice done by a brahmachari, because their social order is different. So we will talk about that as well. But desires are different, and the goal is also different. Not everyone wants pure bhakti. Some people want short-term things like money, wealth, and car, job, etc. Not everyone is looking for pure, transcendental, supreme love. So desires are different. Very nice. So we discuss about that. And then chapter 4, the acronym is ears, right? Because this is about Shruti. So you remember we were talking about that as well. So what's the E stands for eternal education. And how do we attain that? Through a parampara system. We talk about the parampara system, evam parampara praptam imam rajarshiyo vidu. Text 1 to 10 talk about this eternal education, how Krishna gave this to sun god Vivaswan way back, millions of years back. Then A is for accurate understanding. That means we need to clarify our misconceptions. That it's not that everyone is God, I am God, you are God, demigods are God. So accurate understanding, what is the real truth? So to clarify spiritual misconceptions about akarma we talk about. And then R, text 25, 16 to 25 is removing reactions. So how can we do inaction in action? That means although doing our work, but still that work will be free from any reactions or sinful reactions. Rather, it will lead to transcendental destination. Janma karma cha me divyam evam yo veti tatvata tyaktva deham punarjanma naiti mameti suvarjuna. So work done as a sacrifice to please Krishna will not lead to any material reaction. That's R till text 25. The S now, EARS, from 26 or 25 onwards, we will talk about the different types of yajna done by different kinds of people, and that S stands for sacrifice. And what is the real aim of sacrifice? To please Krishna, to please Lord Vishnu, to purify our material consciousness, and to gradually uplift ourselves to the topmost destination. If that sacrifice does not lead to that, then what is the use of that sacrifice? It's no use. We discussed that also. Dharma sunishtita pumsam vishwaksena kathasuya nautpadya yadiratim shrama eva hi kevalam. If that dharma, if that karma does not awaken rati or attachment towards Krishna, then it is called shrama eva hi kevalam. So any confusion with the flow of chapter 4, EARS? So we'll talk about the S today, the sacrifices. Is that good with everyone?
Prabhuji,
Yes, please.
Prabhuji, can you repeat what each letter stands for?
Okay, I'll repeat. E stands for eternal education attained from the Guru Parampara. We discussed the first 10 verses talk about it. A stands for accurate understanding of the Supreme Lord and clarifying the misconceptions. And R stands for removing reactions, text number, I believe, 16 to 25. By the way, I have made short videos of summarizing each chapter, which I can always post. I have made for a few chapters, both in English and Hindi, separate videos. So I can always share that to summarize the chapters. So that's one of my goals. I have made for a few chapters and I'll be making for others as well as we keep progressing. So that's R, and the S, 25 to 42, stands for sacrifices. Is that okay, Prabhu? That's the flow of chapter 4. So,
Thank you.
Hare Krishna, thank you so much. So we discussed here text number 25, and I couldn't share the table last time, but I have it for you today so that we can understand the flow of these verses better. So text 25a talks about karma kanda. So arpanam. So we will see now these 5 elements: arpanam or lateral, havi the ingredients, agni the fire, karta the performer, huta phala the gantavya. What are these for different types of yajna? So for karma kanda, that means demigod worship. The agni is the demigods, because it's being offered to the demigods, Indra, Chandra, Varuna. What's the goal? The goal is material happiness. What's the gantavya? And the performer is the people who are doing karma kanda. To give this, get that. Give this, you pay the price, you get the fruit. Simple. Then jnana yogis, mental speculation, losing self-identity, impersonal Brahman, the sa yujya mukti. But in our holy scriptures, in the Vaishnava Shastra, that's compared to Narakaya Kevalya Pati. It's compared to actually hellish. So devotees don't aspire for that, or bhakti yogis don't aspire for that. In fact, it's interesting. We are just talking about in the Bhagavatam about Amrish Maharaj's story. You may have heard Amrish Maharaj and Durvasa Muni. So we are seeing interesting contrast between mental speculator, or those who are worshippers of mystic yoga, jnana yoga, referring to Durvasa Muni. And on the other hand, we have bhakti yoga, Amrish Maharaj, and we are discussing that how such a big contrast in the character of Bhakti Yoga versus Jnana Yoga or mystic yoga process. So Amrish Maharaj shows extraordinary, amazing qualities, whereas Durvasa Muni is upset, furious, angry. Hey, how dare you eat before me? It's a great insult. Put out a fire demon from his hair out of anger. But Amrish Maharaj did not move even an inch when the fire demon came. So very interesting cases we are reading. So now let's, without taking much time, let's read text 26. Anyone wants to read this one? The Sanskrit? And someone can read the translation.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, I can do that.
Yes, please.
Shrotra tinindrayena anye samayam agnishu juhavati sabdana dadin vishayan anya indra kanishu juhavati. Translation by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation: Some, the unadulterated brahmacharis, sacrifice the hearing process and the senses in the fire of mental control, and others, the regulated householders, sacrifice the object of the senses in the fire of the senses. Purport:
Yeah, we'll
the
just
member.
do the translation in the
Sure,
interest of time. Thank you, Madhu.
sure.
Thank you so
Thank you,
much.
Prabhuji.
So now here we talk about the brahmacharis and the grihastha. So text 26a and b. So who is the performer? 26a, the brahmacharis. What are they offering? The senses in the hearing process. See, we have a choice of hearing, correct? We can hear about Hollywood, Bollywood, Tollywood, whatnot. We can hear about so many things in the world. We can hear Prajalpa, we can hear Pokemon, or I don't know, so many things are there. So many videos, audios, so many channels in YouTube and Audible, I don't know, Netflix, and like it's full. The world is full of sound vibration, right? And sound vibration is very powerful. But how do we use that sound vibration for our purification? It's a matter of choice. So those who use, here referring to the brahmacharis who are called neshtik brahmachari, that means they don't marry at all. So for the first half or the first quarter of one's life, everyone has to be brahmachari. That's the ideal system, the first 25 years. But then most, even in ISKCON, we see that most transition to grihastha, which is absolutely fine. This is nothing bad. Even in our great Mahajans, out of 12, 7 of the great Mahajans are in the grihastha ashram, which is absolutely fine. So both are great, and both have different um, roles and responsibilities. So brahmacharis, basically they absorb more in the hearing process. And in the Agni of controlled mind, they offer the hearing. The Havi is the hearing about Krishna. Savai mana Krishna padar vindayor vachamsi vaikuntha gunanuvarne karo harir mandir marjin mard karo harir mandir marjinad shrutim chakar sat kathodayi. Shrutim. Shruti is very, very powerful. In fact, the whole acronym for chapter 4 is ears, because bhakti is a process of hearing. Bhakti is not a process of seeing. We see through our ears in the spiritual life. We see through the eyes of scriptures. And how do we understand scriptures? By the Shruti. Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema Sadhya Kabhunoy Shravanadi Shuddha Chitta Karye Udoy. Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema Sadhya Kabhuno. It is not easy to attain Krishna Prema. Shravanadi, Arthat, that means by Shravana, etc. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam. Prahlad Maharaj also says this verse in Navdha Bhakti, which starts with Shravanam. Shravanam is most important limb of our bhakti. Chanting is also Shravanam. Hearing Bhagavatam class, Bhagavad Gita, reading books, everything is Shravanam. Going to holy places is also incomplete if one does not do Shravanam without going to holy places, just hanging around, not hearing the glories of the holy place, not hearing the glories of the pastime which happened is of no good use. The scriptures also say that. So Shravanam is most important. Therefore, we have this daily reading of Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, other scriptures. One must do. This is a real tapasya. And grihastha, so there are two types of brahmachari. Next, brahmachari, and the second is grihastha brahmachari. Grihastha brahmachari is also brahmachari. Why? Because they use the objects of the senses by sense control and regulated senses. That means in the Agni, the fire, they use the objects of the senses. In the Agni of the senses, the performer is the grihastha, and because Krishna says in text 11 of Bhagavad Gita, chapter 7, Balam Balavatam Chaham Kamaraga Vivarjitaha Dharma Aviruddha Bhuteshu Kamosmi Bharatarshava. I am that sex life which is not contrary to the religious principles. That means if someone is married and using that objects of senses to have Krishna conscious progeny, to spread the message of Krishna consciousness, the grihasthas have the license to do that. That does not mean that one should say, oh, I am married, I can do anything I want. That is not Krishna conscious. So sense control is mentioned here. In that way, grihasthas are also brahmachari if someone is having a regulated life of sense control and using it for as per the directions of the scriptures. So that's text 26. Prabhupada is also mentioning here, if we go to the purport of text 26, very nice line here. Someone wants to read this part? Anyone?
I can read, Prabhuji. Marriage on the principles of religious life is therefore current in all civilized human society because this is the way for restricted sex life. This restricted, unattached sex life is also a kind of yajna because the restricted householder sacrifices his general tendency towards sense gratification for higher transcendental life. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. I think very, very, clear cut Prabhupada is explaining that if someone is having a regulated, restricted life in the marriage ashram, grihastha ashram, then that person will also attain the transcendental life. So let's move on to next verse, text 27. Yes, someone wants to read this text and
Prabhuji, can I read?
Translation. Yeah, please go ahead.
सर्वेन्द्रिय कर्माणि प्रणकर्माणि चापरे आत्मसंयम योगज्ञो जुह्वादिज्ञानदीपिते.
Thank you. Yes, translation.
Translation by A.C. Bhaktivedanta Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Others who are interested in achieving self-realization through control of the mind and senses offer the functions of all the senses and of the life breath as oblation into the fire of the controlled mind. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So here we talk about the Ashtanga Yoga process in text 27. So who are doing why is Ashtanga Yogis? Ashta means A. There are different limbs in this yam, niyam, pranayam, dharana, dhyan, samadhi. There are different limbs. This is a very difficult process in this day and age. And so what are they doing? They're offering the senses and the prana, the airs, in the fire of controlled mind. So, and the goal is to, the same soul becomes reattached from the sense objects. Sense enjoyment is called pratyagatma. Pratyagatma, that's the goal. Prabhupada mentions in the purport that here, the soul is attached to the sense enjoyment is called paragatma. From paragatma to become pratyagatma. But nowadays yoga is a $1 billion industry. There is goat yoga and hot yoga and cold yoga and beer yoga and this yoga, that yoga. Why are people doing yoga? So that they can enjoy their senses. But what is the real goal? To become detached from sense enjoyment. So anyone who says just to make the body look more healthy and appealing. This is not the real goal of yoga. The goal of yoga is to develop higher spiritual attachment. But no one wants to talk about that. Everyone wants to make money and basically get more sense enjoyment, which is not the goal of yoga. So the Patanjali, Samadhi Siddhi Ishwar Pranidhana. His Holiness Radhanath Maharaj was giving a class to the yogis from the West, and he mentioned out of the last stage in the Ashtanga Yoga is Samadhi. Yam Niyam Asan, Yam Niyam, Ahar, Pratyahar, Dharana, Dhyan, Samadhi. Samadhi. And what is the perfection of Samadhi? Samadhi Siddhim, Ishwara Pranidhana. This is also by Patanjali, who was also a devotee actually. So the real goal is self-realization, but no one wants to talk about that because some breathing, some stretching here and there, and so that the body can be fit for more enjoyment. So there are different kinds of air Prabhupada is mentioning in the purport here. The pran, apan, vyayan, saman. The pran vayu is the vayu which flows upwards. The apan vayu is the vayu which flows downwards. There are 10 kinds of air, the 5 main airs and the 5 sub airs. So not going in too much detail, but the essence is that this is not the recommended process of our self-realization. Some of us do yoga, which is nice, but that is more for to take care of the body so that we can chant and read and have more better Krishna conscious life. The people who are doing yoga these days by doing some pranayam, doing some exercises, asanas, etc., is not for self-realization, but this is to take care of the body so that we can chant and read and hear better. This is Ashtanga Yoga process. Let's talk about the next verse, text 28. Anyone wants to read this one? Yes. Yeah, go ahead. Akshay Prabhu.
Javya Yagnas Tapo Yagna Yoga Yagnas Tattapare
Swadhyaya
Swadhyaya
Dhyana
Jnana Yagnasya Yataya Samshita Vrataha. Translation. Having accepted strict vows, some become enlightened by sacrificing their positions, and others by performing severe austerities by practicing the yoga of eightfold mysticism, or by studying the Vedas to advance in transcendental knowledge. Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Prabhu. That's so nicely reading. So now this has actually multiple parts. There's 4 parts if we observe carefully. So Dravya Yoga. Then the process is Dravya Yoga. So through the instruments are the philanthropic activities, giving charity, opening hospitals, giving blankets, etc. So the Agni is material possessions. So you give that in the Agni of material possessions. The Karta is anyone for material welfare of the others. So actually I wrote it wrongly here. Basically, the goal is for the material welfare, right? Because that's the phala. And who is the karta? The Dravya Yogi, right? So basically, pious activities. It may not be often, it may not be sounded or grounded in complete knowledge. For example, one time a person was distributing eggs, omelette, feeding to the poor people. So what he is thinking, I'm doing a noble act to feed the hungry people, but what's happening is entangling themselves and others as well in the cycle of birth and death by killing innocent animals. So it's like helping others without proper knowledge can be a disaster, right? So therefore, the spiritual knowledge is required. Uh, One time, I think yesterday only, I was hearing His Holiness Radhanath Maharaj was speaking about this, that often in India, people think that if you have money, you should open hospitals and schools and charitable stuff, dravya, all this dravya yoga, philanthropic activities. And if someone say, well, we want to open a temple with that money, then there will be thousands of people will oppose that. Hey, why you want to build a temple? Why don't you use that money to take care of the sick people, to take care of the hungry people, etc. But they forget, Maharaj gave a very nice point, that there is lot of diseased people in who are diseased in their consciousness. Who will take care of their consciousness? Who will treat their consciousness? It's the temples. The ISKCON temples are not just a place of worship. Of course, they are like spiritual hospitals to cure the disease of internal lust, anger, greed, selfishness, etc. They are like educational institutes. They are like hospitals. They are the educational institutes to give the real knowledge of the science of the soul. Prabhupada went to MIT and asked, where is the department for Almighty? Your department for physics and astronomy and maths and science and English and literature and whatnot. But where is the department for Almighty? There's no department. Who will teach that spiritual education? Which is more important. We're not against the colleges, schools, etc. But there is more need for spiritual education. So when charity is coupled with spiritual knowledge, then it will lead to ultimate benefit. Like now in ISKCON temples all across the globe, we know this pandemic is going on pretty much everywhere in the world. ISKCON temples in India and across the world have distributed millions of meals free of cost, and kind people have given from their hard-earned money, and millions of people have been fed. Those who are in a tough situation, or those who are diseased with that, thousands of oxygen cylinders and oximeters and all these medical supplies have been arranged. Doctors have volunteered, so many people have done. But all that, they're not just giving food, they're giving Krishna Prasad, which will not only help the the bodily health of the diseased person, but it will take care of the spiritual health, which is more important, because body sooner or later it will end, whether it may live 5 more years, 10 more years, 50 more years, 100 more years, if not more than that. But spiritual advantage, just think about one who gets prasad, the Supreme Lord, offered by devotees, so much mercy, so much benefit they'll get. So this is Dravya Yoga, is charitable activities. But Prabhupada mentioned the topmost charitable activity is to spread Krishna consciousness. Then comes about Tapa Yoga, Tapa austerities. So austerities are very good, and one must do austerities, but it should be nicely balanced. What is the goal of austerity? Like we do Ekadashi austerity, and recently it was Nirjala Ekadashi. The goal of all these austerities is to develop spiritual consciousness, to engage more in our true self, that is the soul. Not to, okay, I will fast, but I'll watch TV, or I will just sleep around so that I don't have to focus on eating. So tapoyagya. Sometimes people may do severe austerity like chaturmasya, etc. In our ISKCON, these austerities are very simple, because Prabhupada understood that Kali Yuga, especially, Krishna knows that people can't do big austerities. So simple austerities are there, like following the regulative principles, no meat eating, no intoxication, no gambling, no illicit sex, following the Ekadashi, Vrata, and following some special dates, etc. But those who are doing this Tapo Yagya, they are doing severe austerities, and sometimes people do self-concocted austerities also. Oh, I fast on Monday. Why? Because I like to fast on Monday. Someone told me to fast on Monday, or I fast on Sunday. Well, do you fast on Ekadashi? No, no, no. I don't fast on Ekadashi. I fast on Monday, Somvar, Mangalwar, all that stuff. You will see that. So this is not real austerity, because the real goal of austerity is not some bodily health again. Again, we know scientifically also that fasting, intermittent fasting now is a buzzword. A lot of people who are health enthusiasts talk about intermittent fasting. And Ekadashi fasting certainly helps in having a better health. But as Vaishnavas, as aspiring devotees of Krishna, we don't do Ekadashi to improve health. That's like a very tertiary effect to get good health. The main primary goal, objective, phala is to please Krishna. That's why we follow Ekadashi. So someone may ask, what is real austerity? So let's go to this flow chart and let's see what is austerity. Tapo divyan divyena ka putrena sangi. So now you can think of any activity, okay? And we will, go through uh, this chart. So this is like a decision box, or we have to ask, like, is this recommended by scriptures? Yes or no? There are only two options. Okay, let's say it's yes. Then do I like it or not? There could be two options, yes or no. So if it's recommended by scriptures and I like it, then I must continue doing it. It's not a big austerity for me, but I must continue. I must not stop it because it's recommended and you like it. But if we don't like it, then we also must do that activity, and that will be our austerity, right? So anyone would like to give any example of any activity? That's Karina, you want to give any activity example, and we'll see where it falls in this chart. If anyone wants to give example? Okay, I guess all of you are very shy today.
Donating money to the poor people.
Donating money to the poor people. Okay, so let's go with that. So is it recommended by scriptures? What do you say? Yes or no?
Mostly no, Prabhuji.
Yeah, this is kind of a gray zone. Let's take a little more specific, which is not, this is like a gray zone area. Let's say watching mundane TV. Okay. Mundane TV. Is that, so it's, where will it fall? Yes or no?
No.
No. Okay. Now the question I have to ask, do I like it? Lakshmi, what do you think the answer is?
Kind of.
So mostly yes. So your answer is yes. Then you don't have to do that activity because you have to do that as an austerity, right? That will be austerity. Because if someone, let's say, for me, I don't like to watch soccer and it's not recommended to watch soccer, though it's not austerity for me, right? So austerity means to give something up which is contradictory to the scriptures and which I don't like, which I like to do, right? Is everyone able to follow this? It is very important. This is based on Bhagavad Gita only. Or any questions anyone has? In spiritual life also, if I like something, uh, then it's I must do it, but I must also try to do something which are good for me, which I don't like. That will be
You
austerity.
said about watching TV. Suppose I'm watching news and it is forecasting about earthquake,
Mhm. Yeah, I
where
think
it
I
will
mentioned
fall.
the word mundane TV. Yeah, so we have to be very selective, and the idea is most things on the TV are not productive, which is true. If we have to check on the forecast, or say we're not against that, but it should be very selectively chosen. But my point was like mundane serials and movies and games and stuff. Okay, so I think this is clear. So tapoyagya, austerity, talking about austerity. So We discussed that. And then is Yoga Yagya, similar to Ashtanga Yoga, doing different kinds of yoga, etc. Then Swadhyaya Yoga. So in that, they are basically using their intellect or intelligence and offering the Vedas in the fire of Vedic knowledge to attain transcendental knowledge. So Swadhyaya, Abhyasana. Swadhyaya is very good. In Bhagavad Gita 17:15 also it says that Swadhyaya Abhyasnam Chaiva Vangmaya Tapa Uchyate. This is the tapa of Vani or speech that we must engage or in studying the scriptures. Here it's more mentioned about the Vedas, etc. But we also, Prabhupada recommended actually that there's a written code that all my devotees should read at least 2 hours of scriptures every day. If not 2, at least 1, right? How many of read at least 1 hour? Raise your hand. Anyone? Most of you joined the Bhagavatam calls, which is good. So we should try, right? Otherwise, the mind will trap us in something or the other. So if we read scriptures, our intelligence will be purified. We eat prasadam, our body will be purified. And we chant the holy name, our self will be purified. So all three are very important to do regularly. So yes, so we talk about the Tapo Yagya, Drava Yagya, Hatha Yoga, Ashtanga Yoga, different types of yogas are there, different types of yagyas are there. Let's take the next verse, 29 here. Anyone wants to read this one?
Can I read?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Hare Krishna. Apane juhoti pranam, pranapan tatha pare, pranapan gati, ruddha pranayam, parayana, apre nihata hara, pranana shiv juhati. Translation. Still others who are inclined in the process of breath restraint to remain in trance practice by offering the movement of the outgoing breath into the coming and the incoming breath into the outgoing, and thus at last remain in trance, stopping all breathing. Others, curtailing the eating process, offer the outgoing breath into itself as a sacrifice.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much for reading this nice verse. Okay, so here we are talking about other types of different types of yogi, very similar to Ashtanga yogi. So who believe in the pranayama. So we discussed the pranavayu is there one of the main airs. Sometimes all the airs put together is called prana. Sometimes they are said differently, like prana, apana, vyana, samana, udana, etc. These are the 5 primary, and then there are 5 tertiary or secondary also. So let's do this, okay? So there are, Prabhupada is mentioning a few things. We are not doing to as a process of self-realization, but we're just trying to understand, okay? So you can do it with me. There are 3 elements here, okay? So prana vayu is the vayu which is flowing upwards, okay? Let's just think about it. Prana vayu is the vayu flowing upwards, and the other vayu is apana vayu, which is flowing downwards. So purak, Prabhupada is mentioning in the purport, purak, take a deep long breath. So this is called purak, deep inhalation, okay? Then there is a word called kumbhak. Kumbhak means hold, either after exhaling or after inhaling. So we'll inhale and just hold there, that's called kumbhak. Or we exhale and hold, this is called kumbhak as well. So holding the breath after inhalation or after exhalation is called kumbhak. The third word is rechak. Rechak means exhaling like deep exhalation. So though some of you may be familiar with this Bhrastika pranayam, Kapal Bhati pranayam, Anulom Vilom pranayam. They are very good for health. And I also do it, and I encourage others also. All the GBC also encourages. I know so many brahmacharis who do this, so many sannyasis who do this. This is very important for health and easy and simple, without going to gym and whatnot. This is we can do at our home as well in fresh air. I think Mataji is also doing the same. So exhalation. This is called Rechak. Okay. So in the Purak, that means inhalation, the prana vayu, the upward vayu, just think about when you breathe in, the vayu is going up, it's merging with the downward vayu. So the prana vayu merging with the apana vayu. And in the exhalation, so you release the air out of the lungs, the below the apana vayu is merging with the prana vayu. So it's like a suction is created, right? You release the air out, so the apana vayu merging with prana. When you breathe in, there's more pressure here, prana vayu merging with apana. That's my way of understanding when I was hearing. So is it okay? Prana, apana, two vayus mainly, upward and downward, and purak, kumbhak, and rechak. Inhalation, holding, and exhalation. This is all mentioned in the purport. I am not trying to share something extra. It's just I'm repeating from the purport only. The purak, rechak, all this prana, apana is mentioned in the purport. But this is not our goal to attain self-realization. What is our goal? Prabhupada is mentioning. Mam cha yoga vicharena bhakti yogena sevate sagunan samati tyaitan brahma bhuyaya kalpate. One who engages in unalloyed devotional service of the Lord, the modes of material nature, and is immediately elevated to the spiritual platform. So again, talking about Ambarish Maharaj. A Krishna conscious person begins from the transcendental stage and he is constantly in that consciousness. There is no falling down. He enters the abode of Lord Vishnu without delay. So this is Bhakti Yoga. Engaging over everything. Like how Ambarish Maharaj did. How Ambarish Maharaj did by executing. This is the main sacrifice, the easiest, the 9 limbs of bhakti, and whatever we have, our wealth, our consciousness, manas, the deho, jo kichumo, arpita tula Nanda Kishore, arpita tava pade Nanda Kishore. Oh Krishna, Nanda Kishore, whatever is mine, actually everything is yours, but I falsely claim it to be mine, my home, my wealth, my wife, my property, my kids, but actually everything is yours. So everything to Lord Krishna. So Bhakta or Bhakti Yoga is this process. This is the main sacrifice. Easiest, most simple, sublime. One does not need to go to forest for Ashtanga Yoga controlling mind. Is it easy? Very difficult. One who thinks gold and stone alike can follow the Ashtanga Yoga process. Anyone thinks gold and stone alike? Anyone here? That means if you see a stone on the road, will you pick it up? Will anyone pick a stone on the road? If you find a stone piece, no one, I believe. We all see stones every day, right? Big, big blocks of stones. But if you see a big, even a small particle of gold, a small ring of gold, everyone will pick it up. It won't be next second, it won't be there, right? So, but Bhakti Yoga, whether one is a male, female, young, old, Indian, American, white, yellow, brown, any color of skin, any educational background, any financial background, any background. And that's what Prabhupada did, made a home where the whole world can live peacefully under the shelter of Krishna consciousness. So this is Bhakti Yoga, and it leads to topmost destination. We see in this chapter, in the chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 9, Chapter 4, Prabhupada is mentioning, we see here the power of Bhakti Yoga over the power of mystic yoga or Ashtanga Yoga. Durvasa Muni had all these siddhis. Just imagine, with the power of his hair, he could create a fiery monstrous. Can any one of us do that? He was very powerful, mystic yogi. He was meditating upon the impersonal Brahman. But still, tiny kind of challenge or tiny, the greatness is tested in challenging situations. So the challenge was Amrish Maharaj had to take some water for the welfare of the kingdom, not to insult Durvasa Muni. But Durvasa Muni felt insulted. How dare you eat, drink water before your guest? That is the esteemed guest, me, the Durvasa Muni. He felt very upset and furious and mad, angered, red hot. But uses this word. So Bhakti Yoga wins over all the other yogas. So this is our goal, simple and sublime, chanting of the holy names. We don't need to change our jobs, family, cities, ashramas, wherever we are, whichever city, whatever our current status is. We just need to add these simple limbs of reading Bhagavad Gita, chanting the holy names, honoring Krishna Prasad, following simple do's and don'ts. Then life is blissful. We don't need to stand on our head and go to the forest. And so, any thoughts so far before we move on to text 30? Yes, that text 30. Let's read this one. Would someone like to read?
Hare Krishna Prabhu, can I read?
Ji, please.
Hare Krishna Dandavat Pranam, text 30. Sarve pete yajna vido, yajna kshapita kalmashaha, yajna shishta mrutam bhujo, yanti brahma sanatanam. Translation by A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. All these performers who know the meaning of sacrifice become cleansed of sinful reactions, and having tasted the nectar of result of sacrifice, they advance toward the supreme eternal atmosphere. Thank you, Prabhu. Back to you.
Thank you so much, Mataji, for reading this nice verse. So, what is the goal of yajna? This is the goal of yajna is shared here. That the sacrifice or yajna is basically to purify of the sinful reactions, be cleansed of the sinful reactions, and taste the nectar, and which is the ultimate nectar is to please Krishna. And if that's not there, then the yajna will not be fruitful. So sense gratification is the root cause of material existence. Therefore, unless and until one is situated on the platform apart from sense gratification, there is no chance of being elevated to the eternal platform full of knowledge, full of bliss, and full of life. So this is the real meaning of yajna, to please Krishna. What's that famous verse? सर्वस्य चाहं हृदि सन्निविष्टो मत्तस्मृतिर्ज्ञानम् अपोहनं च वेदैश्च सर्वैरहं वेद्यो Vedantकृद्वेदविद् एव च. From all the Vedas I am to be known. From all the yajnas, who is the Yajnapati, who is the Yajneshwara, the master of all yajnas? This is Krishna. Vasudeva Paramakha, Vasudeva Parakriya. This is the real goal, to please Krishna. So and Prabhupada is so nicely mentioning all the above mentioned sacrifice help one to become cleansed of the sinful reactions of material existence. By this advancement in life, not only one becomes happy and opulent in this life, but also at the end, he enters back home, back to Godhead. So that is the real goal. And there's a very nice verse, which maybe we'll read after 31. Let's read this short verse, one line, 31. Anyone wants to read this one? Radha Mataji, you want to read?
Monica will read.
Yes, please.
नायं लोकोऽस्ति अज अयज्ञस्य कुतोऽन्या पुरुषोत्तम.
O best of the Kuru dynasty, without sacrifice, one can never live happily on this planet or in this life. What then of the next? Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Guruji, Mataji. So ultimately, Those who live a life of sacrifice, they only will be happy. Human life is not for selfish enjoyment. It is for selfless sacrifice. The real happiness lies in giving. And of course, first we have to understand what is that sacrifice. Because we have already discussed the example of distributing eggs to others, distributing meat. It will bind us and them more into this karmic cycle. So first, the sacrifice with proper knowledge of the scriptures will only lead to the topmost destination. Otherwise, those who give up scriptures, यः शास्त्रविधिम् उत्सृज्य वर्तते कामकारता न सा सिद्धिमवाप्नोति न सुखं न परां गतिम्. Those who give up scriptures, Bhagavad Gita 16:24 mentions that they will not be happy in this life or the next. They will not, na param gati, they will not get the topmost destination. So, in short, what is the cause of sinful life? Ignorance, Prabhupada mentioned. Ignorance is the cause of sinful life, and sinful life is the cause of one's dragging on in material existence. Isn't that beautiful? Because it's like the example I shared about distributing eggs. Not knowing. So helping others without knowing how one needs to be helped is sinful, right? Prabhupada gives the example of philanthropy in chapter 2, text 1, I believe, very, very starting verse, that saving the garments of a drowning person. Is it a very noble idea? A person is drowning with an expensive suit, let's say $1,000 suit he is wearing, and you save the coat of that person, right? And thinking, oh, I saved him, I saved him. No, that's ignorance, right? And that will continue to bind us in this material existence. So what we have to do, the human life is a chance, Prabhupada mentions, like a loophole, is a point where we have the choice to get out of this entanglement. How? Through the scriptures. The scriptures, Bhagavad Gita, Vedas, Bhagavatam, give us a chance for escape. That means go back home, back to Godhead, by pointing out the paths of religion, economic comfort, regulated sense gratification, and at last the means to get out of miserable condition. Basically, the Chatur Purushartha, Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. But the Bhagavatam really tells the Pancham Purushartha, which is Prema Pumartho Mahan, that unalloyed love for Krishna. That is the real, because our goal is not impersonal liberation either. So those who are bhakti yogis, they will naturally, everything will be sorted out. So Prabhupada is so nicely mentioning, by studying the scriptures, everything will work out. Shraddha Shabde Vishwas Kore Sudrida Nishchoy, Krishna Bhakti Koila Sarva Karma Krita Hoy. One who renders Krishna Bhakti, Chaitanya Charitamrita says that all other things will work out. One has to have that faith. I think someone was sharing something. Yes? Any comments, any additions? The highest kind of happiness a man can achieve is to be promoted to the spiritual planets by practice of Krishna consciousness. A life of Krishna consciousness is therefore the solution to all the problems of material existence. Isn't it beautiful? This is the real solution to all the problems. And what if someone does not follow that? Then let's hear Devahuti's message in Canto 3, Chapter 23, Text 56. Would someone like to read this one? The beautiful verse, a little heavy, so beware before proceeding.
Hare Krishna, Pranam.
Yes.
Can I read, Prabhuji?
Yes, please.
Nihayat karma dharmaya na vigraghaya kalpate na tirtha pada sevaye jivan api mrito hi sa. Translation by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Anyone whose work is not meant to elevate him to religious life, anyone whose religious ritualistic performances do not raise him to renunciation, and anyone situated in renunciation that does not lead him to devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead must be considered dead, although he's breathing. Hare Krishna.
Krishna, thank you, Prabhu. A little heavy, but this is what the scriptures say. We are just reading as it is. So the point is, a lot of people say Bhagavad Gita means do your work. Oh, I am a follower of Bhagavad Gita. I am Karma Yogi. I just believe in doing my work. So the work which does not elevate one's to religious life, and the religious life or practice that does not awaken renunciation or vairagya, and the renunciation that does not lead to, so it's like a cycle. The work leads to religious work, then to the performances, yajna, then to renunciation, and then ultimately to devotional service. In bhakti, we start with that. All the limbs of bhakti, like offering food to the deities, deity worship, chanting, reading, hearing, festivals, programs, ekadashi, everything is devotional service. So just imagine how blessed we have been under the movement of Lord Chaitanya and Srila Prabhupada, that we are able to render the topmost, what is the goal of all the activities? To awaken bhakti or devotional service. And if that's not done, what do scriptures say? Jivan api mrito hisa. That person is just breathing, although dead. Like Brastika, the bellows of a blacksmith. The bellows of a blacksmith also breathe. They also, they like Brastika, there's a pranayam, Brastika pranayam. They also move up and down as if they're breathing, but they don't have life. So life, real life means bhakti actually. So as per this definition, how many people are actually living? Very tiny fraction, right? So I'm not saying this. Srimad Bhagavatam is saying, I'm just repeating what we are hearing. So work which does not lead one to the understanding of Krishna consciousness is considered useless. So we should always see that our work, that does not mean we stop doing work. That's not the teaching of Bhagavad Gita, but it should always be centered around Krishna. Whether it's our job, our business, our family, our health, our finances, our whatever, home, car, it should always be that how I can dovetail this propensity, this activity in to serve Krishna. So it's not just futile work. It should be productive work. That means I don't want to be a person who is just living although dead, right? We are aspiring to be Krishna's devotees. Any other comments on this text? These two from the Bhagavatam. Sorry. Any questions, comments before we move on? Okay, text number 32. We still have a few minutes, so we can go ahead. Yes, Radha Mataji, please.
Evam bahuvita yajna vitata brahma mukhe karmajan viditan sarva evam jnanatam vimokshaye. Translation: all these different types of sacrifices are approved by the Vedas, and all of them are born of different types of work. Knowing them as such, you will become liberated. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Mataji. So we asked this question, and Prabhupada is answering that. Because men are deeply absorbed in the bodily concept, these sacrifices are so arranged that one can work either with the body, with the mind, intelligence. So we saw that, like someone has to engage the bodily more, someone has to engage the mind, the shruti, the senses, and the fire of the sense object and the fire of the senses. All that we read in from text 25, 26, 27, 28, and 29 as well, the pranayam, etc. And then we also discuss about bhakti yoga, the simplest and the most sublime process. Others are very difficult to control body, mind, and intelligence. It's very difficult. Krishna Arjuna says, actually later it will come, text 66.34, Arjuna says that I can control the wind. Can anyone of us control the wind? No. The hurricane is coming, I think, in Florida. Elsa, can anyone control that, stop that from not coming? Or the storm? No one can do that. But Arjuna could do it. If Arjuna was there, he could easily do it. But he said, I can't control my mind. So imagine what's our situation. So what we have to do is to take the Yuga Dharma. And Yuga Dharma is Harinam Kirtan. To chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram
Ram
Ram,
Ram
Hare Hare.
Ram Hare Hare.
Let's take association of devotees, Sadhu Sangha, Nama Kirtana, Bhagavata Shravana, Mathura Vasa Shri Murti Rashadhaya Sevana, Sakala Sadhana Shrestha E Pancha Anga, Krishna Prema Janmaitina Pancha Alpa Sangha. Well, just simple practices of these 5 limbs, namely taking association of devotees, reading Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, chanting the holy names, doing kirtan individually, collectively, doing deity worship, honoring Krishna Prasadam, then making our whole home a holy place, and going to holy places, pilgrimage, yatras, Vrindavan, Mayapur. These are simple ways we can be Krishna conscious, especially Rupa Goswami, the main 5 limbs. And anyone can do. Is a child, no, there's nothing like a child cannot do, or the females cannot do, or the old people cannot do, or the poor cannot do, or the whites cannot do, or the blacks cannot. Nothing like that. Anyone and everyone can do this. For the other yoga processes, there are a lot of restrictions. As I mentioned, to start the real Ashtanga yoga, one has to see the stone and the gold alike. Just think about it. To get to that stage, maybe only few people would fit in that. Everyone wants gold, no one wants stone. If anyone wanting, one time, you know, one person was, Gauranga Prabhu was telling a joke that let's say this, someone starts throwing stones at us, right? What will we say? Anyone would like to say a response if someone starts throwing stones at us, beating us with stones or like rocks? Anyone? Any responses? No one wants to say a response. What will, if someone starts to throw stones, hitting us with stones, what will you say? Very simple question, right?
Mad.
Mad. Okay, anyone else?
You might start throwing stones back.
Starts throwing stones back. Very good. Anyone else?
You get angry.
We'll get angry, mad, furious. We'll start speaking all
Yeah.
the
Bad
the,
stuff.
the bad curses and bad words, harsh, right? And in Hindi say that we'll start, eat ka jawab patthar se. We'll start throwing maybe the bigger rocks on that person. And he'll say, how dare you? Who are you to think you are? Do you know how I'm such a respectable person? How dare you throwing stones on me? I'm this, I'm that, I'm so great. How dare. Now, Gaurang Prabhu was saying, okay, now he's throwing stones, not stones, pieces of gold at us. It's also hitting us because gold and stone will hit us, right? Let's say this mouse is made up of gold and I throw at you, or it will hit you, right? It will hurt you probably, right? But what will this person say? What will you say?
I'll start putting it in my pockets.
Yes, absolutely. So Gaurang Prabhu
Throw
said,
some more.
yes, I am very, very fallen. I am most fallen. You found out the right person to throw gold, actually. Throw some more. I deserve more beating of this gold. Throw some more. I am very fallen, my dear friend. Throw some more. So one has to become at that stage to see stones and gold alike, which is not easy. Therefore, Bhakti Yoga, easy and sublime process, right? So, okay, we'll take a few more verses. Text 33. Anyone wants to say this one? Who has not yet read? Karthik Prabhu, you want to read? Anyone who is feeling left out? Shreyan dravya mayadhyagya jnana yagya parantapa sarvam karma khilam partha jnane parisamapyate. O chastiser of the enemy, the sacrifice performed in knowledge is better than the mere sacrifice of material possessions. After all, O son of Pritha, all sacrifices of work culminate in transcendental knowledge. So, Prabhupada is mentioning here, very nice. The purpose of sacrifice is to arrive at the complete knowledge. And that's what the title of the chapter is, Transcendental Knowledge, Jnana, Yoga. We talk about the transcendental knowledge of Krishna, Janma Karma Chame Divyam. So this is the real goal, to come to the topmost stage of transcendental knowledge. So just doing work without knowledge can be disastrous, right? Therefore, Krishna is mentioning the sacrifice performed in knowledge is better than just sacrificing the material possession. Some people, I'll just give in charity, I don't care to whom it goes, to whom I give. That's not a nice idea. That person can use that material possessions for wrong cause. So charity must be given in knowledge. Like Renuka Mataji said, giving money to poor people. Now that person, why is a gray zone? Because that person can use it for, let's say, smoking cigarette or getting alcohol or getting meat, right? On the contrary, if we give Krishna prasadam or help to buy some ration, to give some, maybe if he needs, whatever, in a Krishna conscious way. Like ISKCON also has like dental camps and medical camps in Barsana. Like every year, a team from doctors from Bhaktivedanta Hospital go and they help these people with the cataract surgery. And multiple other places this is done. It's not just one initiative of ISKCON. Multiple such initiatives are there. But it is out of knowledge. So not just giving them the eyes. Of course, they are Dhamvasi. Who are we to give? They are already like the devotees of Lord. So to give a pleasure, the principle over there is Vaishnav Seva. They are Dhamvas. They are the dear more servants of Radharani, of Barsana. So to do Vaishnav Seva, to give joy to them, and they are not no meat eaters or intoxication or all that. That's far above the, out of question. So we should be careful if someone is giving material possessions, which is fine, but how it is being used, to whom it is being given, right? Because some charity may just donate meat to the poor people. Some people do that, which is not the best thing. So it is sacrifice must be done in knowledge. So we read till text number 30. Which one is this one? 33. So real knowledge culminates in Krishna consciousness. Prabhupada is writing here. Real knowledge culminates in Krishna, the highest stage of transcendental knowledge. So in other paths of yoga, it's like indirect path. Bhakti yoga or Krishna consciousness is direct path because that's the goal of all the real knowledge. So karma kanda, demigod worship, Ashtanga yoga, Dravya yoga, this yoga, that yoga. What is the real goal? Krishna consciousness. If someone is already rendered in Krishna consciousness, then it's like watering the root. Then there is no more other kanda required. Ruttandas Thakur says, Karma kanda, Jnana kanda, this kanda, that kanda, kevala vishara bhanda. It's like a bhanda, it's like a bartan or a vessel of visha. Nana yoni sada fire. That person will keep oscillating in different yonis, nana yoni sada fire. It's very difficult. It's not an easy path move from karma kanda to nishkam karma yoga or bhakti yoga. It may take millions of lifetimes. So we are all very fortunate. I was just hearing a class of Prabhupada the other day, and Prabhupada mentioned that parents we get in every yoni. A cat also has parent, a bird also has parent, a human also has parent. No matter what their status is, they all have parents. No one came without parents. But to get the mercy of Guru and Krishna, a pure Guru, pure Shastras, pure Supreme Lord, is very, very rare. Bahunam Janmanamanti Jnanavam Prapadyate Vasudeva Sarvamiti Samahatma Sudurlabha. So we are so blessed to get Prabhupada's shelter, to get Bhagavad Gita, to get Krishna Prasad, to get chance to see deities, to be in the holy dhams, to go to the holy places, to get Vaishnava association. These are all very, very rare things. Not everyone has these. So we must take advantage and also share to the best of our abilities. So this is text 33 so far. Now, this is a very, very famous verse. But before we proceed there, any comments, questions? Or maybe in the last 10 minutes, we can take some reflections or questions if anyone would like to say something, tell something, or ask something. So this is the time we can use for some discussions. We have last about 8 minutes, and then we will cover the chapter. Next time we'll complete this chapter, the last part of chapter 4. So anything struck you? Oh, His Grace Ramya Prabhu is also present on chapter. Thank you, Prabhuji, for your association. Please correct if I misspoke or want to add something.
So, Prabhuji, it's all good, very good. I got it at least today. It's really wonderful.
Hare Krishna. That's the beauty of Srila Prabhupada and the Acharyas. Everything is so wonderful, simply wonderful. So easily they describe these complicated, these are just with the Sanskrit words. How difficult it would be for a common person like us to understand without Srila Prabhupada's purports, without the Bhaktivedanta purports. Prabhupada spent his life and soul to give us these transcendental jewels of Bhagavad Gita.
Right, Prabhuji. Very right.
So anyone wants to share any reflections or ask any question at this point, feel free to unmute and share, ask. No one? At least everyone say one reflection, like what struck you the most or what's your takeaway point? If someone can share 1 or 2 points, that would be great. So at least we can. After Shravanam should come Smaranam. If you don't do Smaranam, 99% of the Shravanam will be gone immediately. But if you do Smaranam, we'll at least retain something.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. None of pranam, dear devotees. Prabhuji, I after joining ISKCON, I realized how different we should project our form of charity. And based on today's lecture, it just enforces what I've learned before. Prior to that, was doing all sorts of charities and didn't know the real direction that it should have been done in. And that's what I learned from ISKCON and Prabhupada's teachings. And it was enforced today by reading again. So that's my reflections, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Prabhu. This is very, very important because where to give charity, of course, it's mentioned in the following chapters also. There are 3 kinds of charities: charity in the mode of goodness, passion, ignorance, and transcendental charity. The best is given for the right cause, with the right mood, with the right intelligence, to the right person in a Krishna conscious spirits. So it's a big topic which we'll cover. But yeah, thank you. It's a very nice reflection. Anyone else? Yes, Radha Mataji, please.
Today's lecture reinforced, actually brought to my attention. I do exercise yoga, and I didn't, I always thought of yoga as what you said, exercise yoga, breathing in and out. Today, you actually pointed out what real yoga is, and that is my aspiration is to try and reach to do real yoga instead of just, in addition to exercise yoga for my health. I think today's lecture showed me that I also have to do the true yoga as described in the Bhagavad Gita. And thank you.
Thank you, Mataji. I believe you're already doing the true yoga of chanting the holy names and reading Bhagavad Gita and offering Krishna Prasad and honoring Krishna Prasad. This is true yoga actually. Yoga comes from the root word yuj, means to connect. Yuj or yog. In Hindi we say do or do yog. Yog means sum. So to sum or to connect the soul to the super soul is yoga. So, and that is the process in this. Every yoga has a different process. In Kali Yoga, Sankirtana Yagya, or the real yoga, Yagyanam Japa Yagyasmi, in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu specifically came to give us the real yoga of Bhakti Yoga. So you're already doing Bhakti Yoga. What I meant with the exercise and all, that was a process in the other previous days in yoga. There's a separate qualifications, etc. So it is a very tedious process, not recommended for this. So we can continue to do yoga, asana, pranayama, other things for health, so that our body is fit for more spiritual devotional services, right? So in that way, that will also be linked to Krishna consciousness. So yoga actually means linking process or connecting process, to connect everything to Bhakti Yoga or Krishna consciousness. So thank you. You're already doing that. That's why we have your association.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Anyone else wants to say any last few comments or additions?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. Yeah, very enlightening, Prabhuji, as you said, like sacrifices, is better, but sacrifice with knowledge is what Prabhupada and you reinforced. And I like the way Ramchand Mohan Prabhu said, like, we used to give donations, but, we did not know the purpose. And now, the other day we had a conversation, they were telling, okay, building a temple is better. But they were telling, by actually donating food to the poor, it is nourishing and they will, but then we had a conversation, I said, okay, you are thinking about this life, but how about his next life, or or whatever, or not in just this life also, if one realizes, then he will not commit the same mistake again. And like going to a prison, once you relieve him, he will go out, and after some time he commits the same mistake and comes back. But at the same time, if you teach him Krishna consciousness, then he will become a good citizen. And that's what even even in the Western world, even in US, the government was very happy when Prabhupada converted hippies into happies. That's what my understanding, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. That's so wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. That's called like symptomatic treatment versus root cause treatment. In English, there's a thing, of course, we are not promoting fishing, but they say if you give someone fish, you'll feed one time. But if you teach fishing, you'll feed forever. So the point is, if you give someone food one time, it's like a symptomatic. We're not against it, but rather than help, fixing, like one devotee gave a nice example. If there's a hole in the road and people are falling in that hole and getting hurt. So one solution is you put a table over there and start putting band-aids. Everyone who falls on the pothole, I'll put a band-aid there to you. I'll do a dressing. But what's the root cause solution? To fill that hole, right? Similarly, Krishna consciousness treats the problem from the root cause, as you so nicely mentioned. It will punarjanmana vidyate. One who enters bhakti. So we kind of nicely blend it together, because people will say, well, if a person is so hungry and doesn't have food to eat, and you say chant Hare Krishna. So no, we're not saying, we say, okay, take Krishna Prasad and then chant Hare Krishna as well. So thank you. Any last closing comments, anyone? Okay, so it's time, so we'll pause here. So thank you so much for your association. Shri Bhagavad Gita Upanishad ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Samaveta Gaur Bhaktavinda ki jai. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyaiva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavibhyo namo namaha. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Krishna.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.